Human Dynamics resilience programs are designed to empower leaders, energize teams, and create organizations that not only withstand pressure but excel through it. Let's work together to build resilience that drives performance and lasting growth.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in today's episode. I'm Lian Dio, Managing Director of Human Dynamic Philippines. And in Human Dynamic, our mission is to build resilience, enhance wellness, and develop sustainability. And with this mission in mind, we created dynamic dialogues where we have real conversations with leaders building resilient workforces. And I'm grateful and honored to have with us today Miss Rochelle Sejo to talk about her journey. But before we go straight to the questions, I'll briefly introduce Miss Rochelle. So, Miss Rochelle Saho is a Chief HR Officer who has driven people strategy and culture transformation across industries, most recently at Pru Life UK. Founder of Eight Peaks Leadership and Management Consultancy, she has built three HR shared services from the ground up and is a champion of resilience, well being, and results driven leadership. Very exciting to have you here with us, Miss Rochelle. Good afternoon. Kamusta, Miss Rochelle?
Good afternoon, Lian, and thank you for that introduction. I'm very excited as well.
Yes, we are really looking forward, Ms. Rochelle, to know more about your advocacy in well-being and resilience. So maybe we can start there, Ms. Rochelle. You've had a really remarkable career as a chief HR officer. You rose to the CHRO level across very different organizations. So if you look back, what were the moments you think that most shaped you, how you lead people today?
Yeah, great question. I can share with you two moments, as you mentioned. When you talk about moments, you talk about like, something remarkable that happened in your life that really somehow defined who you are. So the first one is, professionally, I was exposed to a toxic leadership and unhealthy workplace culture. And, as HR or as an HR leader, you are tasked to manage culture, develop culture, or work environments where people can succeed and thrive professionally. But you see, culture starts at the top. Whatever HR programs I can do, if the leadership will not embody it, will not as a good example to the kind of culture that we want, any program that I will do will fail. So that to me is an epitome of okay, it it is really the leaders that sets the tone and it starts from the top. The second one is a bit much more personal, because you mentioned about, the career path that I have taken. And at that time, I was at the peak of my career, I was the head of HR working 24 by 7. I was busy for everybody. And I was, doing everybody different tasks. I had a scheduled executive checkup and I kept postponing it simply because work felt more urgent. There was always a meeting, a conference scheduled, a crisis to be solved. No, little did I know that I was prioritizing everything except myself. And then, boom, after probably 8 or 9 months of my schedule na delay,
Mm,
I learned that I was sick already. You know, and I I did not prioritize me. So I got sick. And it made me realize that, hey, I take care of everybody except the person that I should be taking care of the most. Di ba? Yung sarili mo. So that is a wake up call for me. And now, whenever I talk about, leadership, I talk about, the first person that you should be taking care of is you. Because, of course, you can't give what you don't have. And leaders are expected, there's so many expectations sa atin, especially if you're a woman leader, that you have to prove yourself sometimes, especially in the boardroom, diba? When you feel like, the world is always on your shoulders. And if you don't stop, it can come across as a weakness, diba? And I don't want that. But again, little did I know that I am creating a path for me that is not healthy anymore. So that to me, I came up with this, my leadership style should be human centered type of leadership, wherein I create work environments where people can thrive and succeed, without sacrificing the most important piece of themselves, their whole self, without
Mhm.
losing their identity as a person, and that my value is not tied to my business card or my title. So, yes, those two very specific moments or experiences of my life really had an impact in how I view leadership as a whole.
That's so enlightening, Miss Rochelle. I think what really struck me was what you mentioned about my value is not tied to my business card. And that
Mm-hmm.
carries so much because I believe that a lot of people, especially leaders with their roles, their titles, their responsibilities, they take very much big pride with
Mm-hmm.
their role. And of course, it gives them that sense of pride and confidence as well. But at the end of the day, you can only be as sustainable in the work that you do if you are
Mm-hmm.
able to take care of yourself. So that's such an enlightening story, Miss Rochelle. Thank you for sharing that. And while you were sharing that, Miss Rochelle, you mentioned that you are as an HR leader, as a woman leader, and when you got sick, with that experience, did that change how you viewed resilience? Because now it's a word that gets thrown often so easily, but because of your experience, how did that word change for you?
Yeah. Before my cancer journey, resilience to me means pushing through, enduring endlessly. Kung kaya, kayanin, gawin ngayon, di ba? But after cancer, resilience to me means knowing when to stop, when to pause and reset. And, you know, that to me as HR leaders, we often celebrate people who are, I would say, enduring endlessly, diba? Despite exhaustion. As they say, why are we celebrating people who are working overtime ng sobrang
Mm,
tagal, And somehow it changed because of this mental health awareness that we're having. But I think sustainable resilience is the key word nowadays. And that is something that I want to advocate. Because in order for us to really grow and succeed, then there is wisdom in terms of saying to ourselves that, hey, there is a time for you to say no, to say it's time for me to stop because I'm tired. Or to me, at the time I was saying, okay, it's time for me to choose myself. When I had this conversation also with other professionals while waiting for the doctor, and we're saying, okay, are we gonna use our insurance this time? And then somebody said, and it struck me, no, well, at least we are the ones using it for us to live longer. So sabi ko, "Oo nga, no? And I also had this season of life, or at that particular season, I was questioning also, why me? I was strong. I am, my team members, when they learn about my journey, they can accept it. They can't imagine me being weak. Kasi ang tingin daw nila sa akin, you're always there, you're always all around, serving people, etc., etc. But when the time for you to say, I need to step back, I said, what can I get from this? So my learning is that, of course, cancer keeps score, stress keeps score, burnout keeps score, your body keeps score. So that means you need to be able to say, hey, listen to me. And for me to tell people, hey, if this is an opportunity for me to say, to give people a chance and an opportunity to tell them that, hey, the most important person is yourself. So choose yourself. That's the kind of sustainable resilience is most important of all.
And that would be very much needed in the workplace right now, Miss Rochelle, right? And what a beautiful concept to say sustainable resilience. And it's not just what you mentioned earlier, that resilience is enduring relentlessly despite your sickness, despite stress, despite burnout. But at the same time, it can be tricky, right, Miss Rochelle? Because at the workplace, you have KPIs, deliverables,
Mm-hmm.
agendas. So that might be a bit tricky. How do we make sure that these performances get delivered, but at the same time, make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and the people that we lead? So, in advocating for this sustainable resilience, Ms. Rochelle, because like what you've mentioned, alongside the push for a better mental health in the workplace, especially in BPO or shared services in corporate environments where the pressure is endless, what do you envision a culture to be like where well-being is not just a program, but something that is truly lived?
Yes. The answer to that, if we're looking for a lived reality, I would always go back to leadership behavior. Because to me, mental health is not an HR program alone. Sometimes most leaders would say, okay, HR, you can have all of these wellness apps, workshops of yoga, and let's furnish a hotline for everybody, so that they can have something that they can go to. But then, you see, when you talk about culture change, culture is a way of life in the workplace. So it's a day to day activity. And the first layer that you need to see is the leadership behavior. Because what I've learned, and as mentioned a while ago, the biggest threat to mental health is not workload, is psychological safety. If people are not safe to say, boss, can I have a day off because I need to do this for my family? Or boss, I feel overwhelmed, no?
Mhm.
Or probably if there is not an environment wherein they feel safe because they committed a mistake, diba? And I truly believe, I'm always at the pursuit of excellence. So to me, I would always say na, okay, we need to do this because it's needed. But at the same time, sometimes we also fail to see as leaders what's going on in the mind of our people, especially our top performers. Where can we say, nako, I'm burning them out? Or they are not 100% already? Or up to what extent is the humaneness in terms of, what can we give to the people that we have? That's the only time I think it can be a live reality when all of the leaders are aware and are open that what they are doing in terms of daily conversations, daily coaching, or feedback, that some of these things are really becoming part of the culture. Because culture is developed on a day-to-day basis. How they speak, how they act, how they react, you know. And another thing, and it's I think worth mentioning, there are cultures wherein we reward and we tolerate bad behaviors. Like for example, oh, this person is a top performer or a top leader. But then how that person treats another individual can have an impact. Words that's really painful for them that they can't get out of. And more often than not, they go to HR after that, right? So we try to manage now whatever has been said in a conversation between a leader and a staff or a supervisor, you know. So humiliation publicly, words that you can take out already that has been mentioned, to the public, criticisms that are not in line in terms of psychological safety, because you can still, under the concept of psychological safety, it doesn't mean that you're not performing. In fact, a psychological safe work environment, that's the time wherein you can make the best, or we can get out of the best of everybody, of a team, because they feel safe to commit a mistake. So they become more productive. Sabi nga nila, happy employees are productive people, di ba? Because they are at their best without fear of criticism or without fear of committing a mistake. So leaving it to be a live reality, again, it has to be done on a day-to-day basis, and it has to start from the leaders also. So if we have to train people, it has to start from the top stuff. It has to start from the leaders themselves to become examples so they can be emulated.
Very well put, Miss Rochelle. It reminded me of our conversation backstage earlier when we were mentioning how leaders are such crucial elements in making
Mhm.
sure that the culture is conducive for a resilient environment and a psychologically safe environment. You also said something that struck me, Miss Rochelle, about mental health not being an HR program alone, but most definitely something that leaders has to practice and build on a daily basis through their conversations and interactions. I think it's also a very tricky situation, Miss Rochelle. For example, in companies that sometimes unintentionally reward bad behavior only
Mhm.
because this leader is successful in terms of KPIs or maybe sales targets. But then on the other hand, in the way that he or she leads the people is very much in contradiction
Mhm.
to the achievements. Have you had any experience of that, Miss Rochelle? And
Oh, a lot.
how did you manage those types of leaders?
So there are always two things on top of my mind. No, as a leader, you manage your performance and your team, but you also have to remember you manage people and performance. And they should have an equal footing in how you should be rated by the organization. Because you're not an individual contributor. When you handle people, let's say a team of 10, iisipin mo rin ano yung background nila, paano ba sila, because they have different personalities. So if one is saying, boss, can I do this because I have a family, is there a way for you to discuss how are you going to balance it? Or probably, I'm not saying na, you go easy on your targets, but it's how you say it that sometimes impacts people. If the culture is tolerates, words that scars people for life, then that needs to change, or the leader needs to change, or let's say shouting on the floor or in the operations floor, or humiliating someone in public, na ano yan matagal bago mabura sa isip ng isang tao. And I have counseled a lot of people, senior leaders at that, who have been you know um sabi nila may PTSD na nga sila, 'di ba? Hindi yan tipong 3 months mawawala na yung anxiety attack nila because of, it's been allowed as part of the culture, or you know um you're a leader that, especially for people who are just starting at their careers, and that is the kind of leadership that they see. That's why in all of the organizations that I've been with, I always say, part of the about you have your mission, vision, you have your leadership behaviors, what is expected of us that is aligned with our vision and mission. Because if leadership behaviors are not in line with that, then whatever programs that we have will not be there. And if you're a leader, your measurement should include how you manage people, not just your performance.
And I guess that brings us to the next question, Miss Rochelle, because you as a leader, you came from a challenging background or personal experience. And
Mhm.
so I might imagine that leaders who are having trouble managing that people and performance behaviors or the way that they manage it probably could be also having a hard time. So, for leaders navigating their own hard seasons, Miss Rochelle, how do you draw on that foundation? Maybe it's your resilience, your personal
Mhm.
faith, and how does that show up in the way that you lead teams?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So I think what my journey has taught me or what has given me is clarity. Clarity in terms of more than my professional work. Who am I? Because when you are faced with the possibility of losing everything, even your life, then you start to ask yourself, who am I if I'm not a CHRO? Who am I if I'm not working? So this is beyond transitioning kasi you will reach a certain season or probably age wherein you have to prepare yourself for retirement. Pero when you're up there and then suddenly, oops, biglang everything needs to stop. And I can't, you don't know what to do, diba? So I'm very lucky that I have friends and community who help me see it through, to see my value beyond the position or title that I have. And what struck me the most was, you know, I attended this, seminar, and then they said that our value was predetermined. You are valuable even before you became the head of HR. So ko, "Oo nga, no? We were created in the image and likeness of God, pero why do I build my value to the work that I have?" Parang ang babaw, 'di ba? Kaya pero kapag nandun ka pala sa sitwasyon na yon, iba rin pala yung impact. Because I have also some friends who are, very successful in their career. But if something happens in their life and all of a sudden, life forces them to reset. And some of them were not able to take it. They got into depression, they had anxiety. And sabi ko, I think, if if my faith wasn't there, I would have succumbed to that as well. Because sometimes we forget, that our life is beyond the professions that we have. Our worth and value has been determined to it by who? By us? No, but by our Creator. So I said, I don't want to preach. I don't want to impose whatever I know to people. Kasi parang weird naman yun. Sabi, makikita nila ako parang kasi ko, I'm not like that. But like what I told you, I was asking myself, why kaya? What can I get from this experience? That's why I said probably God wanted me to be a testimony, a living testimony, so I can share, especially my unique experiences to people who are like me, have been working so hard, who have been, an achiever, who have been there, And I said, if God wanted me to do this, so I need to be able to show it to people, make them feel it, rather than for me to just say it because that is more impactful. So how do I do this? So I told myself that I can become a leader by, making sure that I see, hear, and lead people, and rather than just telling them, because that's what makes us uniquely human, that human connection, no? With the advent of AI and technology, sabi nga nila, the best thing that we have, compared to AIs is, our capability to have that empathy. with people who have gone through this journey and be able to share it. So that is how it impacted my leadership and my faith. And see, it's not something to do with just praying or knowing that miracles do happen. No, it's not just knowing, it's really becoming a witness to it, that I've been through it and I can tell you that it is possible. It is possible to be a leader and yet you are in tune that your life is made up of more than your work life. You have your family life, you have your friends, your community. You can be successful without losing your sense of self. I remember, my mentor told me, Shell, we work to live, not live to work. So sabi ko, oh nga no, why do we, if you're so driven and you're an achiever, you forget those things. It's simple, but when you're in the midst of it, nare-realize mo, dun mo palang marirealize, oh, yeah. So what can I do so that other leaders like me, women leaders, a mother like me can get so that they too can be successful without sacrificing the most important thing in their lives. Apart from their family, it's themselves.
That's so inspiring to listen to, Miss Rochelle. I feel blessed and privileged to hear such personal experience, Miss Rochelle. And it's lived, right? Like what you were saying, rather than just telling it, you are able to really show it. So, what you were mentioning about modeling the behavior and the faith that you were sharing, it's not just something that you share, but it's
Mm.
something that you are actually living. And it's such a beautiful testimony, Miss Rochelle. And I hope that the leaders listening to us who are going through their own hard seasons and having it having a hard time
Mhm.
managing people and managing their performance can also gain clarity eventually, right? Having that clear self-awareness of their value and also making sure that they don't lose themselves trying to manage everything on their plate. So to finalize or to end our dialogue, Miss Rochelle, if a leader is listening today who wants to
Mhm.
build a more resilient and humane workplace culture, the environment that you were sharing earlier, what's probably a first practical shift that you would encourage them that they can do starting tomorrow morning?
Yeah, I think one practical shift is begin by asking yourself the question, what is it like to experience me as a leader? No. Ask yourself that. And when you ask that to yourself, you have to have the courage to accept also, you know, the realities. Ano kaya yung sasabihin nila? No? Because sometimes, and this is also based from my, experience. Sometimes when we are trying to create an environment when there is trust, but yun pala, our people are feeling fear, or we're trying to create an environment of pursuit of excellence. You drive them to this, but what they're feeling is they're already burned out or they see it differently. So to me, in my experience, I'd say I would have, listened more so that I know that there's alignment between the purpose that I want for the organization and what they are actually feeling. You start with that big question, and then after that, when you know already the answer, you can um, ask other questions like, how can I help you to perform at your best, or what am I doing that makes your life work harder? So it becomes more of a transformation awareness. So your eyes are open that probably your perspective may not be what they are seeing, because culture, as mentioned, is what the people are experiencing. So if your objective is very different from what they are experiencing, then there is that misalignment, and they are not feeling what they should be feeling, and you're not doing what you should be doing as a leader.
Thank you, Miss Rochelle. I'll ask you to repeat that question again, Miss Rochelle, because it's very creative and very new. What is an experience?
Mm. What is was it like to experience me as a leader?
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
And that's a very creative thing to ask, Miss Rochelle, because most leaders, they would just ask, how can I help? How can I support? But then if you identify that gap with what you are giving or the culture that you are building, and then versus what the people are actually experiencing, then
Mhm.
you can have that alignment. So that's a really interesting question, Miss Rochelle. And I'm sure that the leaders joining us in this dialogue will find that useful as well. So, thank you so much, Ms. Rochelle. To end, would you have another advice or any last words of encouragement for the leaders joining us?
Yes, I wanted to leave you with, something that has helped me. I'm big on acronyms, so my work life goal framework now is work, WORK.
Mhm.
First is wellness first. So, guys, protect your health. You can't we can't give what you don't have, and you know that. So, wellness first. O, own your identity. You know who you are beyond your title, behind your business cards, and it's just a title. It can change, careers change, life evolves. So you have to own your identity. Our relationships matter. Success is never a solo journey. You would need people, you would need your communities, you would need your friends, your family, most especially. In the darkest season that you will experience, it's not your company who will help you, it's your family, right? And your friends who will be there for you, not the people who will clap at you during, events. So relationship matters. And K, know and keep your purpose. Live a purpose driven life. Stay anchored on why you do what you do. Because if you know that every single day, no matter how difficult it is, you will have the opportunity to move on and live life no matter how difficult it is. And I think with my life journey, I was able to surpass that. And I keep telling myself, resilient, humane workplace culture. I think the only way for us to have that is if we know that we know how to keep relationships, we know our purpose, we know our identity, then that's the only time wherein we will be able to be truly resilient and contribute to the organization that we have beyond our um, goals as an organization.
What a beautiful way to end our dialogue, Ms. Rochelle. We will definitely remember work, which stands for wellness, own your identity, relationships matter, and know and live your purpose. That beautifully wraps up all the insights that you shared, Ms. Rochelle. Thank you for sharing your beautiful journey, and thank you to the leaders who joined us. I hope they are as inspired as I am. So, thank you, Ms. Rochelle, for having us for this sharing. And thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye bye.